Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching our special coverage of the Kogi Bayelsa election, and we still have our guests in the studio. Before we went on the break, we're reacting to Natasha Akpoti's concerns that she raised when she, before the election and during the election. Right now, she made a statement when she went to cast her vote yesterday, and she said that the electoral officers were not educated enough because of when she casted her ballot, what was registered was that of the Senate instead of governorship. And that is what we'll be looking at this time. Janet, before we went on the break, you were talking about reacting to where the voices and the rapper and all of that. But now another issue of concern for Natasha is the fact that when she casted her ballot, she noticed that the electoral officer actually ticked senatorial instead of governorship. And that was also concerning for her, which has to do with the education of electoral officers. I want us to look at that because before the election, I spoke with persons living with disabilities because the INEC talked about having an inclusive election this time around, and it was going to focus on persons living with disabilities. And another issue that they raised was that how the level of education of the electoral officers at ensuring that these persons are not disenfranchised, that they carry out, their civic rights. And this is not a person living with disability, and she's having this challenge. I wonder how this comes to you.
I think the education should be both ways, both for the voters and for the electoral officers. Because if Natasha were not Natasha, she may not have even noticed. If it were maybe somebody who could not read or write, to just tell her press search, and she'll press, she won't know what she was pressing. And you can imagine the number of such votes that eventually will be void. Because it will go for a different position. That's not the purpose for which the poor old woman may have come out, stand in the sun to go and vote for a wrong position. So the education is key. And there's a department in INEC, the voter education department, and that's basically their job. But how effective are they is another matter. How many people have they been able to educate? How many of these people with disability have they been able to reach out to and let them know that it is their right to vote? And then they make special provision for logistics for them, because on election it may not be easy for them to find transportation to go. So a dedicated bus or logistics arrangement should be made.
With the logistics challenge already on the ground?
But if we have to achieve the question you asked, that there should be the inclusiveness of this category of people, then they have to go out of their way to make sure that they are not disenfranchised. So they can do that. So the education is key. But how far have they gone? What are the achievements in educating people? Because so many other voters may have experienced what Natasha experience, but they didn't speak up. They did not complain because they may not have known, or they may have known and just decide to overlook it and move on. Maybe they have been tired. So these are some of the, I don't want to say malpractices, or maybe it's malpractice in a way.
One cannot really say.
The malpractice, maybe not, it's not intentional, unintended mistakes. But it's not an excuse, because at the end of the day, it will not reflect the true pattern of voting.
Philip, let's get your point of view to this issue. Electoral officer education, how important and crucial it is when it comes to elections, if we want to carry out inclusive elections, and seeing what happened to Natasha yesterday.
I have been giving thoughts to that point. I saw Natasha make that statement, and my mind goes to the training of electoral officers. What level of training do they get? I started asking myself, do the electoral officers that were used for previous elections, do INEC train subsequent electoral officers for every subsequent election, or they use the same group of electoral officers for subsequent elections? How do they? Because if I know INEC trains these people now, if after all the trainings over a certain level, number of elections, they are still having this kind of challenge, then there's a problem, a different kind of problem. Now, if they train for every subsequent election, they train a new set of people, then that may account for this, because you can say maybe the person was not properly trained.
But there are implications.
Well, there are implications. So it boils down to INEC again. That is why I say they have performed averagely. They didn't perform top-notch. Now, if we continue to hear problems like this or challenges like this, I will drop myself back and urge the government to look again at the volume of work that INEC has to do leading to an election. If you watch, INEC will organize logistics for the elections. INEC will print the ballot for the elections. INEC will organize security for the elections, and all manner of functions.
Should that be taking, so should something be lifted off?
Yes, some things should be lifted off INEC. I know that those who occupy leadership positions in Nigeria would want more responsibilities that will make them bigger, and that will make their budgets bigger. Because if you try to take away any of these functions or responsibilities from them, they will start crying
reacting.
for. Yes, they will start reacting. But INEC, if they must give us proper elections, should concentrate on that election, organizing the election itself. Some of these other ancillary duties and responsibilities should be taken away from INEC, so that INEC will have the presence of mind, the concentration to deliver on their core responsibilities. I have been seeing that this kind of challenges happening across board in different. I see NNPC talking about housing estates. I see NIMASA talking about you know, some things that are outside the purview of their constitutional mandates. So you see INEC handling security. You see INEC handling transportation and things like that. Now, the training of electoral officers, should become something that electoral officers should become a kind of career. Something that people look forward to working in that area, so that whoever mans our electoral space as an electoral officer will become somebody that is competent in it. Because this idea of using young people, youth corpers who immediately upon leaving the service goes to somewhere else, and the next election INEC will have to start training again. That is waste of resources. That is waste of time and manpower and resources. I think I am against it. I should be approaching INEC subsequently after this election for an interface. They can't do all this. I think that is what bogs them down. That is what tries to trip them on their way to delivering.
But Nigerians expect that they have the capacity to handle all of these things, because they've been doing that over the years.
They will not want to admit. They will not want to admit that they lack the capacity to handle all these things. But their performance, their output suggests that they are not able to. I mean, I should be judging them not by what they say, but by the output. The output they churn out, we see their result. The results they bring out shows that some duties have to be taken off INEC. I mean, electoral officers, their training should be a different ball game, different from INEC. INEC should concentrate on organizing a free, fair, and credible elections. That is what I think INEC should be concentrating on. Let other institutions. Do you know that in some Western countries, it is not the Inspector General of Police who simply appoints commissioners of police everywhere. So there is an advertorial that so state needs a new commissioner of police.
So your credential
is what
people,
police officers who think that they are qualified, will apply to be the commissioner of police for Lagos State. And if he passes the interview, he's appointed the commissioner of police Lagos State, and not when the office of Inspector General of Police, as we have it in Nigeria, is encumbered with recruitment, encumbered with promotion, encumbered with, that is how INEC is encumbered with a whole lot of responsibilities that now makes it difficult for them to move, that now makes it difficult for them to deliver on their core mandate, which is giving us a credible, free and fair election. That is what I'll be looking at beyond now.
Let me get Janet's perspective. Is INEC encumbered with so much to do? Because it has been carrying out these duties over the years.
INEC is overwhelmed.
Thank you.
And like NNPC, that there is a bill that has been on the floor since 2001, one of the longest bills, that NNPC should be unbundled. INEC too should be unbundled.
Yes.
You know, logistics should be, because that's one area that they've not really gotten in. Conducting regular elections does not mean that you've done well. You can do it regularly and still not doing well. Maybe fairly good. You know, fairly good does not mean pass.
Absolutely.
Doesn't also mean fail, but it means that you are neither here nor there. So it should be unbundled. Logistics should go to maybe a different agency. So INEC could concentrate on the management of the election itself. Even the printing of ballot boxes can be given to a different agency. We print currency. Central Bank prints all the currency in this country. Why can't they print them? After all, after they print, it still goes back to Central Bank for safekeeping. For safekeeping.
Yes.
So why can't they just print and just keep it there? Then a week too, because sometimes elections were postponed, you remember, yes. And maybe for 3-4 days, the materials were in Central Bank and nothing happened. So those materials can be sent even a week ahead. So there'll be no problem of the materials have not arrived on time, the men have not arrived on time. If everybody has a responsibility, you will know who to blame. But now it's INEC, whether it's good or bad, INEC, you don't even know which of them. We don't know which of the departments. So, and the thing goes to the chairman, because he's the head of INEC.
Absolutely.
But if the logistics fails and there's a company or a parastatal that's in charge of that, you know who to hold exactly. If the printing doesn't come out on time, you know who to hold. And if the conduct of the vote or the voting day, because the voting day also has its numerous challenges, which is what we have been discussing: movement, corruption at the level of collating, corruption at the level of counting. There have been allegations like that. So you need to bring in other professionals apart from, maybe somebody has been suggesting, why can't you bring in lawyers? Why can't you bring in doctors and engineers? They bring in professors from university, which is okay. They are men of integrity. I'm not against that. But you could also bring in other professionals into it so that it will spread, and then this feeling of not being transparent will not be there.
Go away.
All right, so looking at the reaction of Natasha now, what do you expect? Should someone be punished for something? Or what would you expect INEC to do with regards to issues like that? Because you've been talking about repercussion, repercussion for issues.
Yes, I will be expecting INEC beyond it will be difficult for me, if I were in a leadership position in INEC, to start punishing a staff for some, even the Nigerian Criminal Code. When an action is independent of your will, if it's a mistake of fact, if it's a mistake not made consciously, the law will permit some listen. So I will not expect INEC to start, but I will expect INEC to start having a regular reservoir of electoral officers, so that they don't have to, bringing in fresh people and train them, and after training they conduct one election and they are gone. I will want INEC to react positively by tinkering on the methodology or the quantum of training that they offer to these electoral officers. That's the response I want INEC. She mentioned a point that is very important. Beyond the electoral officers, their training, which should be regular. Because if it's a one-off training, a ragtag one-off training, I have seen such trainings before. They pack a whole lot of people into a hall, and the resource person is speaking. Half the number of the people in the hall are not listening. They are not listening. I have seen such trainings. So if that is the kind of training that they give to these electoral officers, at the end of the day, everybody who was in the hall receives a certificate of having completed the training. Meanwhile, a good 50% of them didn't know what was going on there. If that is the kind of training that they have been given to the electoral officer, they should change that. I'm looking forward, I expect to see trainings that are impact-driven, shunning out people who, when they say they are trained, they are indeed trained in the area of conducting elections. That is what I want to see. But beyond that, just like she said, the training, voter education also. Because if Natasha were not literate and conscious, she would not have noticed that a presidential slot or a senatorial slot was what was tagged. But because she was literate, or she is literate, and she is conscious of her rights, a large proportion of the challenge we have in this country is that the people are not conscious and are not right demanding. She mentioned it again. Being conscious is being literate is one thing, being conscious is another thing, and being right demanding. Some people will overlook it. Well, she's made the mistake, let it go. But somebody who is right demanding
will ask questions
and demand response, will demand action. And that is what she did. I think we give it to her. But beyond that, the electorate needs education. I think the electorates may have to start educating themselves, because these people who occupy our leadership space presently would want things to continue this way.
The National Orientation Agency, aren't they the ones saddled with that responsibility?
That will be a very difficult one for the National Orientation Agency. Let's not go there, because I have some close relationship with them, and they are going through a whole lot of stress, especially in terms of funding. The National Orientation Agency is not able to respond positively to the challenges, to their mandate. The reason is simple. I remember when the military were in government, in power, and the National Orientation Agency, I think under Professor Jerry Ghana, something like that. Yes. Each local government had a national orientation secretariat, buses or vehicles and things like that. The entire Lagos State, I can tell you, as a matter of fact, the entire Lagos State, I doubt if they have if they have beyond one, even if that is working. I doubt if that one is working, one vehicle for their mobilization. If this entire state, meanwhile, when I was in secondary school, when the military were in power, each local government had one or two. But today, across the country, you can't go to any National Orientation Agency office and you meet substantial activity. The activity they have now at all depends on the creativity and the innovation of whoever is the state director. Funding do not come their way. They are not able to.
But there are budgetary allocations for these people.
Just like there are budgetary allocations for virtually every other thing. There are budgetary allocations for our roads. There are budgetary allocations for electricity.
But right now we're looking at the National Orientation Agency.
Bring them here, let them answer for themselves. But I tell you that just like it is for other agencies, so it is for the National Orientation Agency. And you know, like the former Inspector General of Police told us, that some amount is approved budgetarily, and the amount approved budgetarily is different from the amount that is finally released to them. And again, I wanted to ask him, I would have asked him if I were there, the little that was given,
what did he do with
it? Those who occupy our space, they have this misplaced sense of wisdom, which their output suggests that they lack. Now, let me use the police, for instance, the policing system or the policing institution. When it is time for budget, that is why we don't have accountability. When it is time for budgeting, in the office of whoever is the Inspector General of Police, they just concoct a budget for the Nigerian police. They don't go back. Ordinarily, it should be bottom up. Each police station will submit a need, a budget for their station. This is compiled and brought together at the area command, then subsequently brought together at the state command, and subsequently to the Office of the Inspector General of Police. And at the Office of the Inspector General of Police, you'll be having a representative budget, a budget that represents the needs of the different police institutions across the country. But when you have what we have here now, we are at the central station, a budget is made without regards to the needs of the people in Borno State, their special needs, of the special needs of the people in the back sides of Bayelsa, I mean the riverine areas, their special needs. And you make a budget that considers those riverine areas and those volatile areas in the north. You give them the same budget like a place like Lagos, where Lagos State has made, the state government has made the state more conducive and more secured. And they are receiving equal, so there are lots of issues that has to do with accountability. But it is the citizens, if they are right demanding, if they are right conscious, they will start demanding for accountability. But nobody demands for accountability. Instead, the ordinary Nigerian, myself inclusive, will dance with the crowd and celebrate those who ordinarily we should be questioning their performance, their capacity to deliver on their mandate. So all in all, what we should be calling for is that the voters should understand that they have a vital part to play. It is not about the government alone. I think the challenge again is that the people do not trust the government anymore. They don't have confidence in the government anymore. They are now doing their own thing, separate from the government. Whenever government comes in contact with them, they demand payment.
When the people do not trust the government and they are now doing their own thing, how do we achieve a government, or how do we achieve a society that is forward-looking and like other countries across the world? He said that the people do not trust the government. That's what it seems like, and that's why they are beginning to do their own thing. But for how long can we continue like this?
It's for the mindset. It still boils down to education. We need to sensitize people to change their negative attitudes and mindsets. The people don't trust the government because of long history of broken promises. Governments over the years, whether military or civilian, democracy, or they have made series of promises that they never had intention to keep. During campaigns, they come and tell you they will build bridges where there is no water. But these days, you can actually build bridges where there is no water, overhead bridges. But I'm just trying to say that they will make promises that sometimes sound impossible just for you to vote for them. It's for them to just get your vote. After getting your vote, they abandon you, they forget the promise, they break the promise, and they don't care. And that, because that
has become a circle over the years.
And people's hopes have been raised and dashed severally. So the trust can no longer be there unless the leaders themselves begin to build that trust, begin to say what they intend to do, and then they do it. Even if they don't do all, they do like 80% this time. You promise us a good road, which should even be a basic thing. Those are basic things that you should not even use as campaign promise. We are entitled to good roads. We are entitled to power supply, whether 24 hours, let's even start with 20 hours a day. Okay, that's too much. Let's even start ambitious. Let's start with maybe 10 hours a day out of 24 hours. Because what we are having now in some places is just 2 hours of power in 24 hours, which is like not having. Some places don't even have at all. So if you start by keeping those promises little by little, step by step, you will be earning the trust of the people you are leading. If the people you are leading do not trust you, then of what use are you to them? And that's why sometimes they just collect the money they give because they know that's the only thing they can benefit from them. But for me, that is wrong. They give you 2,000 naira and you spend it in less than 1 hour, and for 4 or 8 years, these leaders continue to loot, because in the first instance, why they want to go into office is not to go for your own benefit.
It's not to serve.
It's not to serve. It's not service to humanity. Some of them are even agents of crime to humanity because of the kind of things they do. They have pushed some people to the world that you now see insecurity, you see banditry, you see all manners of things. People react to things differently. Poverty could push some girls into prostitution, but it will not push other girls into prostitution. It could push some boys into armed robbery. It may not push, so people react differently because of the situation on ground. So we want to see a trusting, a responsive leadership. Let me go to the issue of women again.
Quickly.
Okay, maybe I should hold on
no,
till we'll come back. Okay.
Quickly.
Maternal mortality rate is high because a lot of women cannot access health care, yes, from where they are. Maybe either of bad roads or they don't even have.
So much to talk about with regards to that issue, but then we'll quickly take a break and return to continue discussions in the studio. Do stay with us.